cover designer, a self-described slow reader with a mild case of dyslexia. Today we welcome Lyndsey Lewellen, an author that turned her challenges into strength, finally becoming a published author. Lyndsey, with encouragement from her mother, also an indie author, she grew from a comic book lover to a published author. Before becoming a writer, she designed book covers for other authors. Now she balanced that with motherhood, but that doesn't stop her. Lyndsey is also very active in the sci-fi and fantasy communities and is a passionate advocate for new authors, urging them to persist, embrace feedback, and deal with imposter syndrome. A very inspiring individual, so we say, welcome to Writing Inspiration with Marquee Books. How are you today? How do you feel?
Oh, I'm doing great. It's summer, so I got all my kids with me, so I'm doing great.
Oh yeah, wait, summer? But it's just starting June. I mean, isn't that for like at the start of July?
Well, in Texas, they get out of school a little bit earlier than that. So they got out in May, and so now they're all here. It's great. I love it.
Okay. So tell me, Lyndsey, what made you decide to become a writer?
Yes. So I've written two so far published debut novels. They're part of a duology. And I think the interest in writing came probably from my mother, who is an author. She would always take me to books and bookstores, and she would say, okay, we're going to buy books. When she would say, if one is going to the store, one must go to the book section. And so we would always buy books. I was actually dyslexic, so I hardly ever read them, but I thought they were pretty. But she helped me a lot in writing, and it wasn't until probably my 20s when I really got into writing myself.
Did you overcome your disability to do that?
Yeah, it was mild dyslexia, and so I gravitate more towards art and the pictures and those kinds of things. So my mom she would take me to the book section. She said, "Well, you can read the comic books," and I really loved the comic books. I was a big comic book fan, and I would look mostly for the art, but they had really good stories as well. And so I started reading little tiny pieces. And then I think that gave me the confidence that I could do it, that I could overcome that. And so I started with comic books a lot when I was younger. Then my mom would move me towards more chapter books and things like that. And then even longer novels. She said, okay, try read these as well. And yeah, I got really into reading from there. I'm still kind of a very slow reader. It hasn't gone away all the way, but yeah, I think just the encouragement from my mother that I could do something was really helpful.
That sounds great. So tell me, Lyndsey, did you get inspired by the work of other authors with your style?
For this set of novels, and again, I told you I'm a slow reader, so a lot of my work isn't really inspired by fiction as much, or novels, as much as it's inspired by movies. So this whole set, and I have it here, this is the Chaos Grid is book one, and as you can kind of see, it's very Mad Max-like.
Yeah, it looks great.
Yeah, so Mad Max for book one for sure. And then the second book, which is The Crier Stone, is more like Blade Runner. So this one is more of a cyberpunk, and this one is more, again, post-apocalyptic.
I love the font.
Yes. I was really happy with how they did the covers for both of the novels, my publisher. But yeah, so they're both inspired by more movies from the 80s. And I just thought, what if we took all those cool movies and we just put them in Texas? So that was the main inspiration for them. Mm-hmm.
Well, yeah, they are always on, LA and New York, right?
Yes, and Australia and all those kind of cool things. Why not have it in Texas?
Okay, a futuristic Texas. So tell me, what's your day job, or are you a full-time writer right now?
Well, I would say I'm half and half right now. I try to put as much writing in my day as possible. I'm a stay-at-home mom, so I have a lot more flexibility. Not a lot more time, but a lot more flexibility. But before I became an author, I was a cover designer, and I still am a cover designer. So I design covers for novels for independent authors as well as publishers. And so I do work with my publisher as well, creating covers for them. So that's kind of fun. But I knew I wanted to be involved in books. And so I started to do that. My mother, she became an independent romance novelist. And so she said, when I lost my job a while back, she said, you know what, Lyndsey, you like art so much. You want to do comic books and all that. Why don't you design covers for novels? I was like, I can't do that. I don't know anything about that. But she said, I think you really should try. So I designed her cover and then her friends' covers and then people I didn't know. And so it just grew a lot from there. Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
So you mentioned that you have a publisher, so you are traditionally published.
That is correct. I'm published with Enclave Publishing, and they have a lot of sci-fi and fantasy novels for young adults and for adults. So it's a mid-press.
Okay. So tell me, do you have any hobby that helped you during your writing times?
Yes, and I don't have any with me right now, but I do paint on shoes. So I mentioned I'm an artist, so I used to, when I was younger, I paint on walls, a lot of murals, and then now I paint a lot on shoes. So that's probably one of my main hobbies. Now I would love to say writing and other art is my hobby too, but I do make money off of those. So I'll count shoemaking as my hobby for sure.
Oh, that sounds great. So tell me, how long did it take you to get published?
Oh, that was quite a while. So I started writing when I was in my late 20s, and it took probably about 11 to 12 years before I got a contract. And I think a lot of it was a learning process. So through the entire time I was trying to get published, I was also learning the craft, and I think it was wonderful. Now, back then, I didn't think it was wonderful. I thought it was horrible.
Were you self-published before that?
No. No, I did have a few works out on a writing platform called Wattpad. I don't know if you've heard of it. So it's a right. So you can put some work out there and get feedback. And so I think that was very valuable to me because I could actually reach out to people who were not just my friends and family and get actual feedback from readers. So that was very valuable. But no, I wasn't published before then. And this is my debut. It came out in April of last year, and book 2 comes out in July.
Oh, so you're already working on book 2.
Yeah, it's actually finished. So it's really, I have the arc right now for it, and we're just waiting for the release date on that one right now.
Yeah, you have you have to make up a little window between both books, unless you are selling them together.
Oh, yes, we have to have kind of a long window. My first book, I think it was 24 months from when I got my contract, from when I got published. So traditionally published authors, sometimes it's really nice because you're like, oh, I got a book deal, but then you have a long wait, and there's a reason for it. They have a lot of promotion to do. They've got a lot of editing. Now, indie authors can totally go through 3 rounds of editing as well, but that's going to cost you a lot to do so. So I would say be prepared for that. But traditionally published authors, I don't know how many everyone goes through, but I went through 3 rounds. You had the developmental edits, you had the copy edits, and then the proofreading. And so that takes a good amount of time as well as the typeset.
I get it. Oh, so you mentioned that it took you like 24 months before you debuted?
Yes, from when I got my contract till I got the debut. And that was probably because we had a lot of books already scheduled. My publisher, like I said, is a mid-press. So if there were a smaller press, it might go a little bit quicker than that. And if it's one of the big 5, it could take that long or maybe even longer. It just really depends on the publisher's schedule.
So what's the most difficult thing you have to struggle at that time?
Through the time from when I got a contract or before I got a contract?
Before, because after it wasn't really your work.
Yeah, you're not, I mean, afterwards, it's just a lot of waiting. But it is a lot of rejection beforehand. Dealing with rejection and getting the thick skin, I think, is invaluable for anyone, whether you go through traditional or you go through indie, because traditional, you're going to get a lot of rejection. You might as well just get in with that. But with indie, I think rejection is helpful anyways, because you're going to have a lot of reviews. And when you have a lot of reviews, not all of them are going to be just sunshine and roses. Sometimes they'll say, I really didn't like that character. But if you've already built that thick skin, you can say, well, you know what? Maybe my book is not for everyone. And I think that's a really good thing for people to have in general.
Yeah, I agree too that we actually need to recognize that reality. So tell me, what was going on in your life at that time?
Yeah, I had already given birth to 3 kids, so it was just a lot of running around being a mom. But I was about to give birth to my twins, and I was really struggling with just getting not just one or two. I had hundreds of rejections. So I just like, well, you know what? I'm about to be a mom of 2 kids, and maybe this isn't the path that God wants for me. I'm just going to stop. And so I stopped for 2 solid years. I just did not write at all. I said, that's it. I'm done. And it wasn't until my husband talked to me and we were sitting at a restaurant getting breakfast. And I looked on my social media and there was this conference coming up, it's called Realm Makers, and it's a sci-fi fantasy conference. And he said, you should go and you should bring your book. And I said, well, it's not even finished. I gave up. I'm not writing anymore. And he said, you know what? I think we should go. We should do this. And I really felt the pull of the Lord to go ahead and do that. And so I was like, okay, I'll bring it. And I did. I went and I got rejected again. So, but you know what? It gave me confidence. It gave me a lot of confidence that I can finish this book and I can try again. So I did some more revisions. I talked with an editor, not to revise the whole book, but to work on my query letter and to work on my synopsis so that those 2 things, when I sent them out, it was stronger. We found out that was really where I was struggling, was in those 2 things, was pitching my book. So that was very valuable. I sent it off. A few months later, they wanted they're like, let's sign a contract. And it was just wonderful.
Wow, that's that's a really impressive actually. But yeah, sometimes even the tiniest thing can stop us from that.
Yeah.
It's like they saw the synopsis and then oh, this doesn't sound good, and then they don't even bother to look inside.
Unfortunately, that's the truth. And so that's got to be revised as well.
So tell me, do you have any advice for any new writer starting right now?
Oh, yeah. I would say don't give up. And if you do give up, keep going. Sometimes we think, oh, I've given up, that's the end. And sometimes it really isn't the end. And I think that only God tells you when the end is. And so you just keep writing. And also, I've heard a lot of people say that, especially new writers, and it's the imposter syndrome. I'm not a writer. And one day when I will be a writer. No, when you have written something, you are a writer. You don't have to wait until you have a publishing deal to become a writer. Now, yeah, you do have to wait for a publishing deal to become a published author, but even that's not true. You could be indie and you could go ahead and publish yourself and you are a published author. So it's imposter syndrome doesn't go away. You just have to tell it, I'm not listening to you today.
Yeah. So what is your writing routine usually? Are you like a pre-planner, plotter, etc.?
Yes, I am moving more towards plotting, and I started off pantsing, I guess is what they say, at discovery writing. So I would just start writing something and see where it goes. But my first,
basically.
Yeah. And I still love doing some of that, but I kind of like to have some kind of a foggy outline. So some people call it a skeletal outline or a skeleton outline, where you kind of just write down some major plot points, except I don't put it on a piece of paper. I put it in my head and I go, okay, this is kind of where we're going to go. And so then as I draft, it makes it a lot easier because I have an idea of where it's going. So when I sit down, I have a purpose to my writing. And I think that makes it smoother. And the more you do it, I think the more this will come naturally. Not always, but I think it will, for the most part. And this is the same for when I design covers. I usually don't know what it's going to look like at the end, but I have an idea of what sells in the market and what looks good. And I know where fonts should go. So I have a general idea. And so I just put that into my writing. And I say, okay, I kind of know that this is going sort of this place, and then I'll fill it in with drafting. So I guess it's called a plantser. So both. Yeah.
I get it. So, do you do anything particular when you get stuck or blocked?
Yeah, then I'll have to pull out a notebook and write it down. So like I said, it's mostly foggy in my head when I'm drafting, but if I'm stuck, I really do have to make it more visual. So I'll write it down or I'll get on like Pinterest or something like that where I'll just kind of look at scenes because like I said, I'm a visual person, so I really have to kind of see the characters or see the scene to see what's going on with that. It'll usually give me some ideas of where to go.
Can you tell us a bit about how did you name your books? Like, do you have a story of how you get to those names?
As far as the title goes, I am terrible at making titles. I think that was one of the big
Many
reasons
are.
that
You'll be
yeah.
surprised.
I think that was one of the reasons I didn't get picked up was my title was so bad. My publisher was so gracious to actually look at the story and go beyond the title. They said, we have to work on this title. And I was like, oh, okay. So for the Chaos Grid, there is a section, it's very early, this isn't a spoiler at all, but there is a section where one of the characters, let me back up. So in this world, outside of the Texas Dome, so it's set up as if weather breaks everything or is being destructive to everything. And so they try to fix the weather and they end up breaking it. So now people live inside domed cities. And so they call the cities the domes, and then outside of that they call it the outer grid. And I have one character in the story who she's just calling it slang term, she'll call it the chaos grid. And so that's where the whole book title for that one came from. Now the crier stone was a little easier because there's a stone in the book that's called the crier stone, so it was a little easier. But yeah, my publisher, he was like, you cannot call it this. So we went through rounds and rounds. Sometimes I went to Barnes and Noble to look up. I'm like, oh, I got to come up with something cool. And that didn't really help me. I know it helped some people, but it did not help me. So just really reading the book and going, what's the thing that really stands out? And that was it.
Yeah, basically, usually if the center of the mystery or the reason why, I don't know, a couple is not together or something.
Yeah.
Usually it's something that it should like tell you exactly what the books is about.
Exactly. Yeah, and sometimes and that's with marketing too, is you want something that creates a question. So it tells you what the book, that's why it's hard. It's hard because it's a 1 word or 2 word line, but it's got to tell you what the book is about, what the genre is, and it's got to create some kind of intrigue of some sort. Like you're saying, if there's a couple, why are they separate when they should be together? Like some kind of question that the reader's going, I need to read that and figure out why it's titled that. And so it's similar to logo design, where logo design seems so simple. You're like, oh, the G for Google seems so simple, but it's so hard to make something very simple. So
the reason it's difficult is because it needs to be remembered.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And easy and just something that you're like, oh, a child would have thought of that. It's like, well, still hard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So what's your favorite book that you read so far?
That I've written so far? I would have to say the Crier Stone. I love the Chaos Grid, and I'm so thankful that it got picked up. But it is book 1, and book 2 is the Crier Stone. So it's more like, and it's a very meshed together duology. You can't really read it without reading book 1. So it's more like the climax of the story. So that's probably why I like it a little bit better.
Okay. So tell me, Lyndsey, what is like your largest goal or dream now that you're a published author?
Keep being a published author. It's one of those things you get that you're like, I've made it, but shoot, it's just really entering a career. And I think you have to keep going with it and keep on pursuing it, you know. And again, that's where the imposter syndrome comes in, is you think, oh, I published 1. Can I do it again? You publish another one, but you're like, well, that was a whole set. Can I make something completely different? So yeah, my goal is to publish there. Now I'm also going to be moving into indie for a little bit. I have a middle grade series that I'm going to be publishing. So I'm really excited about that. I work a lot.
Can you do that? with a
Oh, yeah.
publisher?
Yes. So now I can't tell you for every contract, but I'm going to tell you with mine. My contract is just for this series. So if I wanted to get another book published, I would have to get, do a query, do a synopsis, all those kinds of things for my next book series. So I'm not contracted for the lifetime of my career
I
with them,
get
which
it,
is
but
good.
if you are already connected to them, I don't see why can't you ask them to review it?
Oh, that's a good question. The reason I wouldn't ask them to review the one that I'm about to indie publish is because it's a genre they don't publish. It's middle grade, right? So they only publish young adults and adult at this time. Maybe they'll change later on, but right now they don't publish middle grade. So if I wanted to get it published, I could go through a big publisher again, find someone else, which I tried for a little bit, but this one I really think it needs to be indie. So I'm just going to do that for a little bit. I do have some ideas for YA with my publisher in the future, but right now I'm going to focus and do a little bit of indie, be a little hybrid for a while.
Well, at least you can make your own cover.
Yes, that is nice. That is really good.
But if you are really going to go indie for the first time, try to learn a bit about marketing and try to learn a bit about how to do the proofreading and editing and all that. And if possible, get a team that can help you, or someone that knows the process.
Yes, it is. That is extremely valuable information because while we think we are the best editors in the world, and we've gone through our manuscript millions of times, an editor is going to really catch things that you can't catch on your own. And so, absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Especially because we are kind of limited in that area because we understand our stories and we understand how it's done. We have the full puzzle. So we don't see some plot holes that might not appear from the perspective of a third party. Yeah, so now that you're a published author, have you any experience with your readers?
Yes. Oh, that is one of my favorite things. I love doing in-person events, and I started out doing it at a farmer's market. So my husband is a farmer, and he sells at our local farmer's market, and so I was able to sell there as well, and it was just fantastic. But not only that. And I really recommend this. If you have any traditional published authors who maybe haven't done in-person events, I would 100% recommend it because you're going to not only see those people, but it will help you move into different aspects of your career you didn't even know you could. So when I was in one, I got business cards from tons of people saying, hey, come to this event. And so that was really great. And then my favorite thing that happened, I spoke with somebody and I didn't even know who they were. I gave them my information. Then I talked about other books that I would recommend from my publisher, which was kind of cool. And they ended up calling my publisher because they had a son who was a kind of a struggling reader as well. And they said, hey, do you have any more books for my son? We met one of your other authors at this farmer's market. And my publisher was blown away that she was like, oh, yes, we have all these books. And so they gave him one and talked to him about that. And that was really cool that I got to help other authors out on their books by just going to an event. And I think that's wonderful, is just really meeting other authors and just widening your horizons, as well as really getting to know your readers personally. I love them.
Are you planning to go to any event in person, maybe a book festival in Texas?
Yes. And you know what? In North Texas, when I started out, there was hardly anything here. There were there's a lot in Houston and Austin and that area, but up near Dallas, there really wasn't much. And so I was like, wow, I don't really want to travel all that way. But now, and it was crazy because it was the first year when I got published, they just started doing book festivals, and it's all the libraries up here. So we have the Frisco Book Festival that's coming up. We have one in McKinney, and I will be the one in McKinney, which is very exciting because they asked me to be the keynote speaker. So yes, it's in August, and oh gosh, now it's I'm blanking on the actual date, but it's mid-August. and it's the McKinney Book Lit Fest. So I'm very excited for that one. And yes, and then I have a romance tea, even though I'm not a romance author, but I do have some romance in my book. But I will be at that in Richardson coming up in October. And then I'm looking into even more events in August. So yeah, I think it's event season right now. So it's pretty fun.
Okay. That sounds awesome. I'm happy that you already have everything set. So tell me, do you have any like a support network with other authors that they advise to you or something?
Oh, yes. And I think that all came from mainly my publisher. So my publisher is really tight knit. So a lot of us really talk to each other. It was kind of funny. We had a fantasy versus sci-fi whole spiel kind of thing on the Instagram last year. So we all got together and got in our little groups. And so we've been talking to each other constantly. But it's wonderful that I got those connections because some of the authors are also editors. And so I reached out to them. I say, hey, I'm going to indie publish my middle grade. Can you help me? And they're like, yes. So I actually got my editors from other authors in my group. Not only that, but I told you a little bit ago that there's this conference I'm going to. It's called Realm Makers. It's the one that I decided I was going to be an author. But that is a fantastic conference, and they have lots of classes on writing. They have places where you can join a critique group. So if you're looking for a critique group and you can't just find one, I would highly recommend going to Realm Makers and finding one there. This year, it's going to be in Grand Rapids, Michigan. We're having that. Oh my goodness, next month.
I know what it is.
Actually. Yes. It's going to have a big expo. There's going to have lots of really geeky things, lots of writers talking to each other about super geeky things. It's so exciting. So, yeah.
Well, I'm happy that you have all your plans for the year.
Yes.
So going a little back about your other new series that you're planning to make, can you tell us a bit about the concept you have there?
Sure, yes. So it's a middle grade steampunk novel, and it's set in kind of a Victorian era time, but it's a totally different world. And my main character, she is a pilot in training, just a 13-year-old pilot in training, and she gets into a lot of trouble. There's an underground magic war that's happening in her world. Now, her world is run by inventors, and they've outlawed magic, and her father is the head inventor, and he really wants her to just not get in trouble so he can have a good reputation. But of course, she ends up finding a box that's magical, and it, gets her stuck in the middle of this underground war. And she spends a lot of the time doing a lot of treasure hunting to find the rest of it so she get all this magic off of her so her father doesn't find out. And it's book 1. There will be book 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Wow. So it's like an adventure series.
Oh, yes. Quite adventurous. Lots of airships and fun gadgets and lots of adventure.
All right. So can you tell us in which platforms we can get your books?
Yes, so the Chaos Grid and the Crierstone, you can get those on Amazon. You can get them on my website, lyndseylewellen.com. You can also get them on my publisher's website, which is Enclave Publishing, and anywhere else online that books are sold. Or you could come by and see me in person if you're in the DFW area.
Oh, that sounds great. So you already shared your social media, basically. I was going to ask you about that. Well, Lyndsey, I think that's all for now. Thank you so much for joining us today and for talking to us. I would love to hear from you once your new book is out, and maybe once your other series is, more advanced. I mean, did you start already writing, or you haven't started?
Oh, yeah, that one, I'm on the editing process of it right now. So it's going to be published in November, probably. I don't know if I said that anywhere, but it'll be published in November. Mm-hmm.
A double release for the other series?
Double release this year. Mm-hmm.
So on the other series, it will be in August, and this one will be on November.
No, I'm sorry. So the Crierstone is coming out in July 8th. So that's this one here. That will be July 8th. And then my steampunk series, the book 1 will come out in November, most likely November 1st.
Okay. Yeah, there's a good amount of window there, so I don't think there's a problem. Well, thank you so much, Lyndsey, for coming here with us.
Thank you so much for having me. It was great. Bye.
Lyndsey was a great guest, and her books really sound interesting to me. We learned quite some lessons from her, like how rejection isn't the end. Lyndsey faced hundreds of rejections before landing her first book deal. She emphasized that rejection is inevitable, but essential for growth and building resilience too, whether you go for traditional or independent. We also learned from her that imposter syndrome never fully goes away. Lyndsey reminds us that waiting to feel like a writer isn't really necessary. If you've written something, you are a writer. Confidence comes with action. Thanks for joining us today. If you find this episode inspiring, like, subscribe, and share this video. And give Marky Books a try in the link below. Have a nice day and see you next week. Bye.